She made him cry in the shower. She made him beg. She made him feel like a monster. For 5 months she held footage over his head and smiled about it like it was a hobby. That night, when I found out what she'd done, something in me changed. I swore, she won't smile about this anymore. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you once trusted, hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready. Because this is the story of how I exposed a blackmailer, and how justice, quiet and brutal, found her. When we first met, he was gentle in the small ways, the kind of man who made you feel seen in grocery store fluorescent lights. He laughed at bad jokes, remembered the little things, and came over with soup when I had a cold. We were messy, imperfect, but he loved like he meant it. A few months into dating, he got distant. He'd stare at his phone and flinch. He'd check the door locks as if someone might walk through at any moment. Once, he stayed up all night and came back with eyes so hollow I could see the city lights reflected in them. He told me he was tired, that there were problems, but he said he would handle it. I trusted him. I discovered the truth on a rainy Tuesday. The kind of rain that draws little rivers on the pavement and smells like wet concrete. We were on the couch, he was quiet, and I knew waiting was a losing game. Finally he blurted it out in a voice that was all fracture and small pieces. Her name was Hannah. She recorded us. She's been blackmailing me for 5 months. When he said it, the room tilted. I remember the taste of my mouth, metallic and sharp. My chest dropped like I'd stepped off a curb I hadn't seen. He told me the details in flashes, messages demanding money, threats to post the videos, calls at 3 in the morning, how one of her messages had said, "If you don't pay, I'll send it to everyone." He told me he'd considered leaving town. He looked at me and said the thing that made the world stutter. I thought about ending it. This wasn't just cruelty. This was terror. Not just for him. For me too. For any normal life we had a right to. The next days were a blur of panic and grief. At night he jumped at his phone. During the day he watched every social app like a man watching a wound. I watched him shrink into safety protocols, deleting apps, turning off locations, asking strangers at the coffee shop if they'd seen anything suspicious. His jokes dried up. He stopped planning things beyond tomorrow. When someone tries to hold your life hostage with shame, the shame moves into you. I stopped humming in the shower. I flinched if a door closed too loudly. When we went to a party, his shoulders locked the minute someone mentioned a mutual friend. I'd watch him and feel rage shoot through me like static, hot, buzzing, impossible to turn off. And the woman? She resurfaced like a ghost in my feed. Maybe the first time I met her she'd seemed harmless. A mutual friend of a friend, a face at a party. She had that soft, sunlit Instagram aesthetic, filtered smiles, travel photos, talk of brunches and new jobs. The kind of life that looks unanswerable. She was doing her thing, dancing in a beach video, laughing with friends, living like nothing had happened. I couldn't stand it. Every time her name floated in my head, my chest tightened. My hands went cold. I'd wake in the dark from a dream where she was laughing while he drowned. I knew we had 2 paths: walk away and let it rot us, or fight in the only way that would beat her, by taking away what she traded in, secrecy and reputation. The moment I decided to act was small and sharp. He was nowhere near me. He'd gone to work, a paper bag lunch in his hands like a man trying to keep his life together with tape. I opened his laptop, not with malice, with the same fierce love someone uses to treat a fever. I combed through messages, saved receipts, screenshot after screenshot. There were names, comments, text threads where she bragged about the power she had. But the winning move wasn't just receipts. It was proof in public. She thrived on private terror. The only way to break that was to expose her private to public and then watch the private life she curated crumble. If she ruined their lives with recorded shame, she'd be ruined by revealed truth. So I began to plan. Not to hurt someone indiscriminately. Not to wreck lives beyond repair. But to reveal the person who had weaponized intimacy against a human being. I am not a hacker. I don't have access to shadow sites or shady forums. What I had was time, memory, and a stubborn belief that people who build fake lives online are fragile on the other side of the screen. First, evidence. I copied everything from his phone into one secure, timestamped folder. Texts, screenshots, the dates she'd sent things, the messages where she asked for money. I backed up the footage references. Sometimes she'd threatened to post clips, sometimes she'd actually sent them to accounts we had never heard of. I took careful notes, made lists with dates and conversations, and created a chain, a story that couldn't be dismissed as a messy breakup. Second, allies. The thought of appearing vengeful, of turning this into spectacle, made me uneasy, so I sought people I trusted, a lawyer friend who understood the laws around non-consensual recording, a tech-savvy cousin who knew how to retrieve metadata without breaking anything, and one or two close friends who could witness everything. I did this not to escalate, but to preserve credibility. If we were going to expose her, we had to do it cleanly, legally, and in a way that wouldn't backfire. Third, method. There were two routes: quiet legal action or public exposure. The quiet path would take months, maybe years, and I watched him deteriorate with each day. Public exposure was faster, messier, and it would hurt him now, but it would hurt her too, and it would be a corrective. I decided to combine them. I filed a precise complaint with the police, handed over the evidence, and simultaneously prepared the public case, a controlled reveal that said, "This is what happened. These are the facts. No rumors. No gossip. Just truth." The day we moved was rainless and sharp. I remember the sound of the coffee maker in the background and how his hands trembled when he helped me pack a small bag to bring to the station, to meet the detective we'd lined up. The detective was exhausted in the humane way only good people are exhausted. She listened without blinking, took the folder, the screenshots, and told us, quietly and bluntly, that what we had was solid. Non-consensual recording and extortion. She said she'd open the investigation immediately and advised us on preservation of evidence. Parallel to this, we prepared the public statement. My voice shook the first time I recorded it. My name is Name. This is what happened to my boyfriend. He was recorded without his consent. He was blackmailed for months. We are pressing charges. The plan was to publish a calmly worded post, supported with dated screenshots that proved a pattern, dates, demands, proof she'd bragged to others online, and to send it to her employer, to mutual friends, and to platforms where her accounts were hosted. We would not humiliate beyond the facts. We would not add bluster or threats. We would show the receipts. When the post went live, the world moved faster than my heart could keep up with. I posted on a public forum and shared the link with the detective and the legal counsel. I emailed the company she worked for with the facts and date-stamped evidence. I messaged mutual friends with a short, factual note. We are pressing charges. Please do not spread misinformation. This is the truth. My phone buzzed and lit up with messages. Some were supportive, some were stunned, others were angry. Her account? It went quiet. At first I thought maybe she deleted everything in a panic, but a minute later her perfectly curated feed shifted. Friends began to ask questions, a DM leaked, and then another. Within hours her, innocent, life started to spasm. She texted him, furious and pleading. She sent screenshots trying to gaslight the narrative. I never recorded without consent, you always liked it, this is false. But the timestamps had teeth. My saved messages, the sister who had overheard her bragging, we had more than words. We had a pattern. Her employer called. The HR person read the facts and placed her on immediate leave pending investigation. Her boyfriend, who'd been distant and complicit in silence, messaged to say he had no idea she was doing this. A mutual friend forwarded a screenshot where she joked about power and the things you can get people to do. It wasn't a private text anymore. It was a public record. Watching the first cracks was surreal. The same face that used to beam in filtered photos now sent frantic emojis. Her followers wondered what was happening. A couple of accounts that had once amplified her content quietly removed tags. The sweet, carefree posts were archived, then deleted. And the hardest part for me, the most satisfying, wasn't watching her panic. It was watching the weight lift from him. He straightened in a way I hadn't seen in months. He started to eat again. He began to sleep. The fear that had lived inside his ribs eased, as if a hand had finally unclenched an invisible fist. Within a week, official notices arrived. The police opened a case. The platforms began to suspend accounts tied to evidence. Her innocent pals texted, shaky and confused, asking what they should do. One of them admitted she'd heard her brag. Small-town rumors spread. The woman who had once cultivated sympathy now had to answer for choices she'd made in private. There was no cinematic moment of public shaming, no dramatic showdown in a grocery store. The justice was quieter, more procedural. An HR meeting, an investigation, people who had once followed and liked her posts now asking why. That quiet was the kind of vengeance that heals, not flashy, but effective. We weren't monsters. We didn't aim to ruin beyond repair. We aimed to dismantle the weapon she'd been using. And it worked. She no longer had the leverage. She could no longer weaponize their intimacy. She had lost the thing that gave her power: secrecy. The day the detective called to say they had enough to bring formal charges, I cried, not the jagged, uncontrolled crying of the early days, but the tired, relieved kind. I cried for him, for myself, for every small bruise the trauma left behind. The tremor in my hands loosened. For the first time in months I could imagine a future that wasn't built around watching for threats. But this story doesn't end with a trophy. The recovery is ongoing. We still go to therapy. He still has nights where a random sound will make him flinch. I still feel a chill when I hear her name. The difference is this: she no longer owns that reaction. She can't steal peace with a message anymore. She can't target him with a recorded moment and think the world will obey. There's a blurred line in revenge stories where satisfaction becomes cruelty. I try to remember that line. What we did was not about spite. It was about restoring a life. It was about proving that someone who preys on another's dignity for sport deserves to have their facade pulled apart by facts. If you're listening and wondering what the right move is when someone you love is haunted, gather facts, get help, and act with purpose. Fury without plan can be destructive. Fury with clarity can free people. If this story hit you the way it hit me, please like and subscribe for more real Reddit revenge stories. The ones where justice isn't loud, but it's effective. Tell me in the comments, would you have exposed her publicly, or would you have trusted the legal route alone? I want to hear your take. And if this story resonated because you or someone you know has been hurt like this, reach out, seek help, and know you're not alone.